Hi everyone, it's Louise from Louloupurple. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. For today's project I'm going to be using one of the big dies from Sizzix. It's the Eileen Hole Wrap Journal. So this is a big die and you will need to have the extended platform. Oh, what are they called? Those extended plates. As you can see, they're longer than the normal ones, and that's the actual big die. So I tried it out on some cardboard. So these were cereal boxes that I stuck together, and as you can see, it does cut the top layer, so you will still get the colour coming through. So the board that I'm using there is actually the Sizzix mount board, which is designed especially for these types of dies, so it's the right size. I've also just stuck on some double-sided adhesive sheets and I am putting on some craft card. I then put the double-sided adhesive on the other side and I am putting some jeans material over the top of this. And then I will run it all through the die cutting machine. Here I'm just using my pokey tool to get rid of some of the black foam that is on the die that's gone into the creases of this board. So as you can see, when you fold the crease line, it does cut through the fabric. So this isn't a problem for this one because it doesn't fray or anything, and I will just show you a different way of adding material to your mat board. So I've cut another mat board out using the die, and I'm using the double-sided adhesive sheets, and I'm going to stick this on to the front of my mat board. I then get my fabric, take the backing off the sticky side and stick the fabric to the board. I'm just cutting this down to size. I then use the extra sticky red tape to stick the fabric to the inside of the mat board. As you can see, I'm missing out the holes because you don't want to be trying to cut holes through sticky tape. I then fold the fabric over and stick it down, doing the long sides first and then trying to make a neat corner on the shorter ends. You may need to put another piece of tape onto your corner so that you can tuck the corner in and stick it down, give it a bit more stickiness, which will help to make a neat corner. For the inside, I've used a mixture of the red liner tape and some Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue. As you can see, I did put a layer down and then I took it off again, so I think I've started doing a new one, because you need to, when you're doing the inside, you need to put your card on and then do the score lines as quickly as possible, because card doesn't bend the same way that the fabric will, so you need to make sure that everything's in place to start with. I then use my eyelet hole maker to just cut the holes again in the fabric, and here I'm just sticking one in the middle part, which is going to be for the closing. I then use some beading elastic onto the spine part. This is what's going to hold your pages in place. And I've also used some thicker elastic which I've sewn together, and I'm going to paint with the Pink Ink multi-surface paints. This one's hot pink. I'm going to add a little bit of white because I don't want it as bright, and I'm going to mix these together and paint on both sides of my elastic. So this multi-surface paint from Pink Ink is a fabric paint as well, so it's great for this, and I'll just put this aside and let it dry. Once the paint had all dried, I then use some linen thread. I'm going to sew this through a button and then through to the front side of the journal. Then go into the elastic, into a button, back into the elastic and through to the other side. I do this a few times to make it secure, and then I will thread it through another button. So the button is going to keep this in place so that the linen thread doesn't get pulled out. So the button on both sides is quite important. I do the same on the second fabric journal, but for this one I've made a tie in the same material. Moving on, I'm using the Sizzix sculpting foam with some of the floral dies, and I'm going to make some flowers for the front of some of my journals. So I'll just quickly show you this one because the last video that I did explains it all in detail on how to make the flowers with the Sizzix sculpting foam. So if you want to know how to do that in more detail, then go to my channel and look at the video before this one. I have also made some paper flowers using the same dies, and I'm using my Wilted Flower Distress ink with my blending tool to add some colour to the edges of the petals. I then used the Sizzix oil pastels on the sculpting foam to add a bit of a colour variation to add more detail. I then use my stylus tool on the reverse side of the flower petals to give them a bit more detail, then flip it to the right side and use the stylus in the middle. This will make the petals lift up. You can also do this with the sculpting foam as well. And that is a paper flower all made. So as you can see, you can use the dies for paper and for sculpting foam. I'm using my hot glue gun to stick the sculpting foam flowers onto my material art journal. Going back to the jeans journal, I apply the flower and then use my Versifying Clair purple ink and some letter stamps to stamp out the word journal. I will then add some more stamped images to the cover of this journal. Moving on to another one, I'm using the Sizzix Tim Holtz cog dies. You get quite a lot of dies in here, so you get one that the cogs are all together and you get a load of separate ones. So I've die cut this onto some black card. I've also die cut another journal using the matte board, and I've painted it with my gesso so it's completely black. After everything is stuck into place, I use my Cosmic Shimmer Opal Polish. This is the Copper Pearl. So on black, this is going to turn a copper colour. Now, when you've not used these for a while, you might find that the sponge is a bit stiff. So just use some water. Here I'm using a baby wipe as well, just to try and soften up the polish on that sponge. It just takes a bit of water and a bit of manipulating and it will be fine. And then I'm going to add the polish to the sponge and apply it over the top of my journal. So as you can see, it looks white in the pot, but when it goes on to black, it will turn a lovely copper colour. And when you see me do the front part, which I should do in a moment, hopefully, you can see that the cogs will really stand out. For the pages of my book, I have cut some cartridge paper to 7 inches by 4.5 inches, folded it in half, and then cut the corner pieces out on the inside. So as you just saw then, the pages all go to different lengths when you try and put it in all together. So here I'm using a really thin double-sided tape, and I'm just going to stick each page on top of each other. This will use more paper, but at the end it will stay flat. So you might have seen me do this on another journal before, so that your pages literally stay nice and flat and all together. So as you can see here, when you open it up, your pages are all the same length and you can make it nice and flat. So those middle parts I'm going to make into little compartments, so in the end I will put more tape on them, and you'll see that in another video later on. After playing around with a lot of different fabrics, I found that if you use some felt and put it through the die, you can use this on the inside of a fabric one, which will be a lot neater because the fabric moves in the creases, whereas the card was a bit stiff and it didn't quite bend in the right place. So here I've literally done the same as I did before. I've put a hole in the middle for the closure fastening, and again I've made this one out of material. I'm using the linen thread in the same way as before. For this journal, instead of making the pages, I have found some small craft notelets which I got from the internet, and I've had to cut them down to size because they're a little bit too wide, which is not a problem. Just used a craft knife and then just stick each one of those in, and you can put them in and out or change them over. If they get full, you can put a different one in, which is a bit of a cheat, but it's quicker and it was a present for someone, so I wanted it to be done quite quickly. So for my last journal, I'm going to be using some leather. Now you can put this in through one of your folders to give the leather some detail. Now this worked straight away, but I think my leather was a bit too thick, so the pattern is still there, but it's not as detailed as it was when I first did it. So next time I buy some leather offcuts, I will try and get a thinner leather. As you can see, the detail is there, but it does fade after a while. So this is the last one that I'm going to do, and just to show you that you can use leather as well. I'm actually placing it the wrong way round because I don't want the cut marks on the outside, I want them on the inside of the die. Because the leather is a bit floppy, I'm going back to the cutouts that I used from the cereal boxes, and I'm just cutting these a little bit smaller than they are originally, so that they fit nicely on the inside of the leather journal. This will give it a little bit more strength. I then use my corner cutter to round off the corners, and as you can see I used a bit too much pressure and broke the handle of the corner cutter. It's not a problem, I can still use it. And again, those little craft notelets that I got off the internet, I'm just cutting those down to size and placing them inside the journal. For the closures for these two, I'm using the Sticks to magnetic self-adhesive sheets, and I've stuck two pieces together, and I've taken the adhesive off one side and put that down on the front bit. Take the adhesive off the other magnet and close it so you've got them in the right place that you want them in. I have recently bought some little magnetic closures, little round discs, so I will link them down in the description as well. And these two leather art journals will be available to buy on my website. And that is today's video all finished. I hope you got lots of different ideas how to use your wraparound journal die. And if you would like to buy any of the products I've used in this video, they will be listed on my website blog post. I will leave a link in the description box below this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. click on the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Links to my website, Facebook and more will be in the description box below, or click on the end screen at the end of this video. Thanks again for watching and I hope you got inspired. Bye for now.